Hi folks, I'm Deputy Mayor tonight, Frank Danch. I'll be looking after your meeting. I'd like to start with having the national anthem. I'd ask you to silence any phones or whatever electronics you do have. And tonight we're lucky to have Genevieve Renee Bisson from the Royal Canadian Legion, and she's going to lead us in O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, much appreciated. I now ask that Councillor Bagnew recites our land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you. The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nation, such as the Adirondack, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all indigenous past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Proclamations. We've got one proclamation request this evening. Item 4.1 is Navy Week from April 28th to May the 5th, 2024, and a flag raising at King George Memorial Park as requested by the Royal Canadian Naval Association Niagara Region. Moved by Councillor Bagnew and seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the week of April 28th, 2024 to May the 5th, 2024 be proclaimed as Navy Week. Sorry, folks. And that the white ensign and current Royal Canadian Naval ensign be allowed to be hoisted in King George Memorial Park, Clarence by League and Branch 56 during the Waterside Memorial Service on Sunday, May the 5th, 2024 at 1300 hours. If any councillors have any questions about this proclamation request, please raise your hand now. Thank you. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. So that motion is carried. And at this time, we'd ask that Bob Coles from the President of the Royal Canadian Naval Association, Niagara Region, have a few words. Thank you.
Over there. To talk to you. Okay. Deputy Mayor Branch, City Council, City staff, members of the public in the gallery, I want to thank you for this opportunity to address you today. My name is Bob Coles, and I am the President of the Royal Canadian Naval Association for the Niagara Region. Joining me is our first Vice President, Jeff Seaburn. I served the Naval Reserve, and Shipmate Seaburn served 35 years in the Royal Canadian Navy, the last 7 of which we served in the submarines. Also, our shipmate Genevieve Renee Bisson, who just sang the national anthem, is our communications director. Royal Canadian Naval Association was formed in 1954, became the Royal Canadian Naval Association in 1963, and we are a registered nonprofit and one of 19 active chapters across Canada. We provide a forum whereby any person serving or who have served in the Naval and Maritime Forces of Canada, the Commonwealth or her allies, and all the members of the naval community may be kept abreast of changes in maritime matters. We support the Canadian Navy, both active and reserve, as well as the cadet organizations, local and national, and any organizations connected with the military forces of Canada. We are able to do this through the generous support of our local marine industries. We help to further traditions of Navy, Army, and Air Forces of Canada and its allies, and our word helps to perpetuate the memories and deeds of those who gave their lives in all our military forces. The Battle Atlantic. Through the Battle Atlantic Memorial Service, RCNA Niagara aims to recognize the extreme sacrifice that was paid by our Royal Canadian Navy, specifically the unsung heroes of the Canadian Merchant Marine. The Canadian Merchant Marine of World War II seldom gets mentioned in any remembrance ceremonies, yet it played an integral role in ensuring our troops were supplied with ammunition, fuel, food, and other essential supplies. The Canadian Merchant Marine had only 41 ocean-going merchant ships at the outbreak of the Second World War. During the war, this fleet underwent tremendous expansion as Canadian shipyards produced 403 merchant vessels, a number of them at Port Weller and St. Catharines, and a total of 133 Lakers were called up to ocean convoy duty from the Great Lakes Fleet. And I'm one of the old people that would remember what those ships were like. They were very small, and they were not fun to ride in the North Atlantic. The scope of these losses can be gauged by the fact that 10,000 tons of shipping were lost for every 10 hours of every day in the month of July 1942 alone. That equates to 7,440,000 tons lost in July alone, all merchant sailors. The connection to us here in Port Colborne and the canal in general, some of these shipping companies that lost ships and crews are well known: Canada Steamship Lines, Canadian Lake Carriers, Gulf Lake Navigation, Imperial Oil, Patterson Steamships, Upper Lakes Shipping, and Algoma, representing 31 ships and 245, mostly Niagara sailors, that were lost. At the close, I invite you, all, and everybody here present, we will support our local cadet, we invite everybody to join us on May 5th at 1 p.m. We will have support from our local cadet organizations, Niagara Regional Police Piper, a trumpet player, a flyover by World War II aircraft, waterside service, and a gathering at the Port Dalhousie Legion, branch 56 on Clarence Street afterwards. We're in a position just north of Clarence Street. We wanted to go up further up, but there was a wedding anniversary. So we just down by what was the old Bridge 20, the old railroad bridge, just a bit north of that. We'll be holding our services in there, and all and sundry are invited. I thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Bob. Okay, moving along, we'll do the adoption of the agenda. Mover, Councillor Bruno, and seconder, Councillor Aquilina. That the agenda dated April 23rd, 2024 be confirmed as amended. If any councillor has any questions about the agenda, please raise your hand now. Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. If there's anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Thank you again. The motion is carried. Disclosures of interest. If any councillor has a conflict of interest they wish to disclose, please raise your hand now. Thank you again. There are no disclosures of interest this evening. Approval of the minutes. There's one set of minutes, 7.1, regular meeting of council, April 9th, 2024. Hoyle's not here. I guess he did the minutes. Councilor Hoyle. He's not here. Can he still be passed?
No, he's not here, so no, he can, no, just fix them.
Okay. All right. So we'll get a mover of Councilor Bruno and seconder of Councilor Aquilina, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April the 9th, 2024 be approved as presented. If any councillor has questions about these minutes, please raise your hand now. Thank you again. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. If there are any opposed, please raise your hand. Once again, thank you. The motion is carried. Staff reports. Nothing from the gallery tonight there, ladies? I know you're filling in, but we won't pick on you. Thanks so much. So correspondence items. We've got items 8.6, 8.1, 8.3, and 8.8. They've all been pulled for separate discussion.
8.3 was satisfied.
I didn't say 8.2.
I thought it was Councillor Bruno.
Wait,
Is that correct?
I don't have an 8.2.
I wanted to speak to a comment on it, but the question was answered, right? I don't need Mr. Bram here. Yeah.
So you're all right? Cool.
Yeah.
All right. If there's any other items that councilors wish to pull or to discuss, please raise your hand now. Thank you. We'll now proceed with the motion to approve the remainder of the items that have not been pulled for separate discussion. Mover Councillor Bagnew, seconded by Councillor Bodnar. Bagnew and Bodnar.
Oh, sorry.
You're questioning me?
Remember anything? For a long ways, I just said,
I've got a set program here, okay?
I don't, sorry, continue.
That the remainder of the items that haven't been pulled for separate discussion be approved and the recommendations contained therein be adopted. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. If there's anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Once again, thank you very much. Presentations. There's one presentation this evening from Jeff Hoover, Regional Manager of the Canadian Niagara Power, and John Sander, Manager of Customer Engagement of Canadian Niagara Power. You guys want to come up to the podium, push the buzzer there. Nice to see you, Jeff. It's only been about 15 years, eh?
So how do I just ask you, or can I flip it?
Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't.
Awesome. Which do you push? Just the
Just
arrow?
forward, yeah.
Give it a try.
Okay. All right, thank you. So for tonight, for our general update from Canadian Niagara Power, we have a few slides to present today. We're going to talk about storm preparedness, system reliability, recent CMPI, Port Colborne system improvements, operating and maintenance programs, and customer communication enhancements. Storm preparedness. Since the blizzard of 2022, we've enhanced our storm preparation measures. CMP meets with the City of Port Colborne in anticipation of major weather events. Enhanced communications with the City of Port Colborne authorities, PC Communications Department, MTO, fire departments, etc. CMP is improving communicating outage information and restoration times with the customers that we have. And we're increasing our CMP system resilience, vegetation management, system upgrades, and aligning our construction standards with weather patterns. This slide here is our annual system reliability. So we have some stats there from 22 and 23. The numbers, you can see the jump there for the customer hour outage between 22 and 23. And those are all related to two weather events. The ice storm that we had in February of 23, and then another storm or two that we had inside of March. So if you're to factor those two out, the numbers are very good. Unfortunately, those two events are sitting in there. Distribution automation. We started the implementation of our distribution automation using technology to make smart switches that narrow down outages to a smaller area and re-energize the remaining line, reducing the number of customers without power. The smart switches narrow down the area where the fault is located, reducing the amount of time it takes for our line crews to identify where the fault is. A few of our system investments that we're doing currently right now, we have the large project that we're working on with Port Colborne for the West Street development. A few of the numbers are there. It's a 2-year program starting this year. Very shortly, we'll be building the new lines down on Catherine Street, and then throughout the winter, we'll be doing the underground. And then you have the Canal Days this year, and after the Canal Days this year, that's when we'll start working on the West Street to have everything done before Canal Days of 25. Another big investment that we're doing inside of Port Colborne is the Clally substation. The Clally, I think that's Jeanette Street at the corner there. It's getting close to an end of life for the substation itself. So CMP's investing $4.4 million in a 5-year program to retire the islanded substation. We're converting that whole area of town from 4.16 kV to 27.6, and the removal of some restricted conductors and obviously replacing end-of-life poles. CMP has a very aggressive vegetation management program. We've been going very hard at our right-of-ways, tree maintenance and our tree cycles, substation inspection, maintenance, line inspection and maintenance programs. I'll turn it over to John now to talk about customer communications.
Good evening. Tonight I'm going to just cover some of the highlights of our communication efforts or improvements in those efforts. I think in general we saw an overall improvement in the communication relationship with the city during the December 22 storm, the snowstorm that we'll probably never forget, and it generated a lot of good dialogue between us and the city and the first responders. There was a lot of good information that was proactively passed back and forth, and I think that gave us a significant benefit in our restoration efforts. But on a more formal aspect of the projects that we're working on this year for Q3, we want to have a customer-facing outage map live, and that was something that customers have been asking for through satisfaction surveys and just general correspondence through feedback through council and call-ins from customers directly. So we've deployed that in one of our other locations up in Sault Ste. Marie successfully, and it's working well. So there'll be two parts to it. There'll be the Q3 outage map that's going to provide a graphic representation of the service territory and any outages that may be in play in a particular location. And along with that is going to be, before year end, our text-based notification. So anybody that subscribes will be able to receive those for any outages in their area. And basically what that provides, whether it's the map or whether it's the notifications, customers will then know that we know, and that's generally what they're looking for out of the gate. Anything beyond that, they know that we're working on it, especially if it's a big storm, it could take some time. But then it'll probably reduce their general concern or anxiety, but then it'll reduce the number of call-ins because they know that we're actively working on those outages. So again, Q3, Q4, so before year end, that's when we're planning on having that live. Just a little bit more recap, speaks to, again, that graphical representation, provides awareness to the customers of known outages. We're basically going to be arming the line staff with tablets that they already have, but with the ability to manage the outage in the field, which then provides a more proactive approach for the outage management life cycle, whether it's small or large. So you'll have more real-time, near real-time information provided to the customers. And yeah, I'd say that's it for the communication.
And thank you. And if there's any questions, we take some questions, if that's okay.
No, I'm not gonna, okay, who wants to ask a question? Who's up? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Very kind of you. Anyways, you mentioned getting rid of the substation at Clally Street and Janet Street. Is it because of new technology, or is it because you have new wires? Like, why,
It's just,
what replaces it?
Actually, we're just converting it. So we're converting the voltage from the 4 kV that comes out of that station to 27 kV. You see the new substation that was built in the nickel plant property by Hydro One. So we're really transferring everything to the new station from the old one on Clallam.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Did you have your hand up? Yeah. Councilor Bruno?
Thank you, Mayor. One to Jeff. This is a small thing, but at Clallam Street, is that construction starting? Is that CCAN there yours? Or a contractor of yours?
I would say yes. Yes, it is.
Any chance you can move it to the back of the property? It looks like, you know what? There, it looks pretty, it just like bang, as soon as you turn the corner, you see that thing. I don't know, you know, yeah, it's, so I think it's got a lot of tagging on it and all that stuff. Second question on communications. Thank you for doing the digital mapping, because the one thing that, like, I get it, we're one utility now. It's Fort Erie and Port Colborne. But I can't tell you how many times when I've called for residents, you know, when you say you have 3,000 customers out, it kind of means nothing to me as a Port Colborne councillor, because I don't know if there's 2,900 out in Port Colborne and 100 out in Fort Erie. So, like, it's really frustrating because I want to be able to pass along the decline in numbers and the progress, but I had no way of doing it. Just on the graphic map then will come out. So I'm assuming the tablets in the field, they'll be able to clear areas?
Yes, yeah, they're going to be able to, rather than have to, as they traditionally have, call into the control room, who will then make the change in the, like the mothership system, so to speak. They can make the change in the field, and as long as they have connectivity, and I think cellular is pretty good around here. We've done some field tests, and we're going to test drive it again before we go live, but they will be able to make changes in the moment when they're comfortable and they've done the work safely. That's the last thing that they'll do. They'll hit the restore, or they'll verify it if it's just a net new outage. Now, getting to what you were indicating on that awareness in specifically to Port Colborne, that's what the graphic representation will be helpful for. You'll have polygons that will show there'll be a number of customers out in that area, and you can zoom to it to a level where you don't see houses, but you will see, okay, that's my general area, and that number will decline or could go back up again depending on the severity of a storm.
You answered my next question, was going to be about the polygon will take care of this, because even with the graphic representation, you could show a whole lot of red if that's out, but it may be in a very sparse area. So visually, it looks like, you know, all kinds of homes out, but it's really all kinds of land.
Absolutely.
So the polygons will be able to pick that up.
You'll have a bit of context, so it could be a large portion of the service territory, but as you indicated, if it's very rural, it could be half a dozen people out in that area, or vice versa in downtown core, where you've got a larger number of businesses and people, so it would be a higher number and a smaller. So it'll all be representative of the number and geographic space that's affected.
Great, excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thank you, Gary. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you to whoever can answer. First of all, your power outages have much improved over the years, and you should be congratulated for that. And probably one of them is that you've been aggressive at tree trimming, and but my question is on the fire lanes. And full disclosure, I live on a fire lane, but your guys were through last year, part of this year, did a great job trimming everything. But they don't have the okay to take down very large dead trees that have been dead for 8 years or more, right beside the power lines, leaning that way. I'd just like to get a sense of how we either report those or get somebody out to have a look at them. And, you know, is it the homeowner's responsibility, or is it so close to the power line that it, you know, you're worried about it taking it down? Can you just give me a little context on that?
I mean, when it comes, yes, when it comes into proximity, I mean, the only person that can cut those trees down is a utility arborist, not a general arborist. And you're right, we've been very progressive on all of our right-of-way maintenance, on all of our tree trimming cycles. We, both Fort Erie and Port Colborne have 3 zones, 1, 2, and 3. Right now, we're in zone 3, which is the west side of the canal up towards Dane City. Then we do zone 1 and then zone 2 is along the lake there. So it was, like you said, done last year. Our issue is we do our trimming to maintain around our line and our limits around the lines themselves. But we have identified, and this is our next step, is not only clearing the right-of-ways, not only maintaining our lines, is figuring out where these outages are, where these critical dead trees are. And we're starting this year to start invest cutting those trees down. We'll start with more of our high-profile lines, like more of our main feeders, and then from there work our way down. But we have definitely identified the lakefront in Port Colborne, lakefront inside of Fort Erie, as 2 high outage areas, and that's just due to the wind and the lakes. But yes, we are moving forward to start cutting trees and working with homeowners next to the lines.
Okay, thanks so much. I know you guys mentioned that text capability. I've got property in Haldeman County, and they've been doing that for probably almost 2 years now. Even if there's a potential for hydro going out, you get a little signal to your phone, and it's appreciated for sure. No other questions there, folks? Well, thank you, John and Jeff, for your presentation tonight, and keep the lights on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, moving along. Delegations, there's nothing this evening. And the mayor's report, as I sit up here, there is no mayor's report. Regional councilor is not available tonight, and the staff remarks, we already know that. So we'll head off to councilor remarks, and I'll start on my left. Councilor Bodner, anything this week?
Yes, sir. Madam Clerk, would it be appropriate this time to bring forward my request for drainage meetings to be held on an off Monday? Is that something I could do at this time? And because you were sitting beside me, you know, maybe you have one written. If not, I have a poor attempt at one right here. But
Through you, Deputy Mayor, if I could just respond to that.
Sure.
I made a note myself that was something that we should be looking at. We should be holding the drainage meetings on their own on an off night,
right,
so that we're not interfering with any other meetings. Tonight was an example, so
right.
we'll note that and go forward that way.
Okay, and a time of 6:30 p.m. so it gives people get home
Yes.
from work and get here,
Yes.
including counselors?
Yes.
Okay. Great. One other thing, I think Councillor Agolina will expand on this, but Doug Miracle has a showing along with the Phoenix artist groups that is set up at Roselawn. And I know Councillor Bagu was there, Councillor Agolina, Brian Bowles was there. Did I miss anybody last night when the grand opening was? Amazing attendance. That place was packed, and rightly so. Doug certainly deserved it, and the other artists there did too. But you got to get out and see this, folks. Somebody in our own backyard that you don't really know what's going on, but you got to get out there and see his work. It's fabulous. So I think that's it for me, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I can call you Mr. Just one thing. On May the 10th, coming up very shortly, is World Fair Trade Day. And the Fair Trade Committee that I sit with is going to have a information booth set up at the Market Square on Market Day, Friday, May 10th. from 8 till noon. They've got several events that are just in the planning stages right now. But it looks to be a great event that they're going to put on. This is Port Colborne's 15th year of being a fair trade city, which puts it in good standing as one of the longest serving, can you say longest serving fair trade cities? Or the longest city that has opted in to be a fair trade city in the province or in Canada, I do believe. So that's something to be proud of. So May 10th, mark that down, come out and see the folks at Market Square. There was going to be a request, and I don't know if they've done it through other channels, but I'll ask that the fair trade flag be flown in front of City Hall on that day. I don't even know how we go about asking that, or just plain out ask. So, yeah. It may have already come through Olga Lofen, so she's working with the Fair Trade Committee to put this together. So it would be good to see that flying, and that's it for me.
Okay, thanks so much. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Mayor. Just one came in this afternoon to the Acting Director of Public Works. Street light out. It's been reported. Been about 3.5 weeks. And it obviously was out a while before the first report. 1413 Lorraine Road. I'm wondering if you could just maybe give a little extra push down there to our contractor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Okay, moving along here, my Hungarian friend, Councillor Bagu.
Who was Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Who one?
Anyways, couple items. Within the last couple of days, I've gotten messages from two people regarding the intersection of Charlotte and Fielden. And I know Councillor has brought up his past councils about the intersection, the accidents, and I think there's 3 or 4 so far this year. I'm not asking for a four-way stop at this time, but I'm asking through council to staff if they could get the NRP stats for that intersection accidents within the last 3 years, and then maybe we can go from there. It just seems like people are just blowing through the stop signs, and there's also a visual sight problem because parking too close to the corner is blocking your view of cars coming from Steele Street School down there. So for work on that, maybe no parking here in the corner side, but I'll clear that up with Director Steve. But if we could go through council to get those facts from the NRP, I really appreciate it, Mayor, and send it to council.
That was Charlotte and Fielden you wanted that for?
Yeah.
Okay. Get that to Madam Clerk? Right on. Okay.
And that's it, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Okay, well, Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As Councillor Bodner was stating, I'm the council rep on the Friends of Roselon, and Friends of Roselon put on the event at Roselon that is still continuing with the Phoenix artists. I am a bit, embarrassed to say that I didn't know who Doug was before last night, but was quite fascinated by him, by all of the, I can't even list the amount of people that he's connected to, like Johnny Cash and Sarah McLachlan, like all kinds of like huge artists, which is quite fascinating. Yeah. Anyways, it was a very good event, and so I just wanted to advertise that it is still at Roselon, and it's going to be at Roselon from April 22nd to June 22nd on Wednesdays through Saturday, 1 to 3, and it's free admission for anybody who'd like to to go and visit, and it's quite a display. But that's all I have as my update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and we've recorded those dates here, and I guess if anybody hasn't been to Roselawn, it's always pretty entertaining and well worth the trip. It's a fantastic building, and it certainly has been improved over the years. Okay, so let's move on to consideration of items requiring separate discussion. Item 8.1, 2023 Development Charge Summary 2024-100, moved by Councillor Bruno, seconded by Councillor Aquilina. I guess Councillor Bruno would like to have a little talk on that.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's interesting, read the chart. It's very simple, and it's been drained quite well. But I guess that's the issue when we weren't charging for development charges and ramped it up. I know that's a separate item that we're going to be reinstituting development charges that we've had the study. I did have one question about the chart through you to, I guess, Mr. Bowles, if you want to take that. I've always wondered can I assume the difference between Parks and Recreation Reserve and Parkland, the dollars there, is one for the, in lieu of the 5%, and we, in lieu of building the parkland, we take the money, and the other, I'm assuming, is just a DC charge on each house. My question, though, is if you're not going to be creating any more parkland, because in your master plan, your parks are there, in new ones, where they've dedicated the land, you're not buying the land for parkland. So is that money just to stock a new park? And can any of it be used elsewhere in the parks system?
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor and Council, it's a great question. The city has had conversations about expanding parks at different times, but specifically to your comment, can you use those funds within a park? The answer to that, and we did seek a legal opinion about a year ago with respect to this, the answer to that is yes. We could, if we're seeing the requirement for park usage or the infrastructure needs to change, we could utilize it for something other than just buying land specifically.
Good to know. Thank you, Mr. Director. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay. So the recommendation of this report is as follows: that Corporate Services Department report 2024-100 be received for information. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Is there anyone opposed? Obviously not. So the motion is carried. And we will proceed with item 8.3, acquisition of unknown Knoll Street Road End 2024-61. Mover Councillor Bruno and seconded by Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. A comment that I wanted to, I did make it to Bram on the phone, but I'd really like council to think about this down the road when it's declared surplus. So through you to the acting director, or actually, you know what, it is probably not for you, Sandra, it's probably for the CAO to direct back. I was a little bit concerned that we discovered a piece of property. We do need a pump station, but the report is written that it's sort of, the region's going to do the environmental assessment. It could be in a great location. And from my point of view, it's a 21-meter lot that's zoned for multi-res, or you could put a single res there. And it's quite deep. And I'm just concerned that the first reaction should be what it could do for Port Colborne real estate and build a house there or a triplex, gain those taxes, those water bills. And if the region needs a pumping station, then yeah, we'll look at it. Maybe it goes in the back because the lot is so deep. And as we've seen the way they look today, they can be quite presentable. For those around the table who probably know where Reservoir Park is and where Mr. Farrar lived, there's an entrance off field, and then there's a much more expansive pump station behind that, and the house is at the front, and it garners taxes, and it looks very presentable, and the pump house is in the back. And so I'm just concerned that we, I guess what I'm saying is, we take care of number one first, and then if we can help people out after that, that's the better. So I would just really like to see us concentrating on, if the region needs it, we'll look at it for them, but it's a housing lot, not a pump station lot. And if we can accommodate, do that. So maybe the CAO could pass that on in the deliberations of Public Works and the discussions with the region on that. And I would hope to see it come back as a residential property first. It's wide enough for a driveway to go into that the region can put in and fence and go to the back if it needs a pump house. I just want to make that comment and to get it back to the appropriate people, Mr. Walls. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Bruno. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So the recommendation of this report is as follows: that the Chief Administrative Officer Report 2024-61 be received, and that the Manager of Strategic Initiatives be directed to work with the City Solicitor on the acquisition of the unknown Knoll Street Road ends, and that the Mayor and Acting City Clerk be authorized to sign all necessary documents. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous, so the motion is carried. Okay, moving right along, we'll go to item 8.6, the city signage strategy for parks and cemetery sign replacements 2024-96. Moved by Councillor Bagu and seconded by Councillor Bruno. Looks like both you guys want to speak on this topic, so we'll pick on Councillor Bagu first.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I did send an email earlier to Steve and Mrs. Banting regarding it. I'm questioning why we're getting outside contractors to put all the signs in the city property. I know in years past our own workers have installed the signs. I understand times have changed, but so that was my question. We're paying a lot of money to contract this out, and so my question, I know Mrs. Banting has an answer, so I'll wait for that, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Would you like to speak on that?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Bagu. So this is due in part to the size and complexity of this particular project. So it is over 36 city park signs and cemetery signs. The signs are also pretty large and require substantial metal frames and rebar casings, concrete work. It goes beyond the normal scope of work for our roads and parks crews. It would also divert from our essential maintenance work, things that our crews need to continue, those essential tasks that they're doing. And we want to make sure we maintain a balanced staffing level. So by using contractors in this particular case, we can maintain an appropriate staffing level. We don't become overstaffed just for specific one-off projects. In this case, it is more of a special one-off, but due to the amount of work, it was just determined that contracting out made more sense in this case. I do want to note that we do still use our in-house crews to put up some smaller scale signs and when there's not as many. So we do still do that. Thank you.
Do you, Mr. Deputy, remember in Hubby at the West Side Arena, they used to paint the city signs on his time off of driving a Zamboni. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Pretty sure they took Huppy's name off the wall over here because he had his little insignia on the back wall there. Councillor Bruno.
Been asked and answered, thank you.
All set? Okay, cool. Okay, so, want to speak on that? Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I got just one question. So we're contracting it out. How long is it going to take to get them all installed?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Elliott, I think it's over just the next couple of months. It's anticipated to be completed fairly quickly, actually. So do we have a hard deadline?
We're working with the contractor right now. So I'm going to say, because of the foundation and all the concrete work, we're going to start as quickly as possible. We'll probably start on priority locations like H.H. Knoll, some of the bigger parks. And then we'll, I'm hoping by the end of September, end of the summer, we can get that completed.
Okay, just real quick, do we know the complement of, like, it's one crew that they're having come in to do all of the installations, or is there like multiple signs going in with multiple crews for a quicker response time, or is it just 4 guys do this sign, this sign, this sign?
So through the Deputy Mayor to yourself, Councillor. So because we don't have like the project cost and we can't really go forward yet with, so those details haven't been worked out, but we will get more information. I can relay that back to you once we actually confirm that we can go ahead with the project with the cost.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else? All right then. Okay, so nobody else wants to comment on that item? Say what? Oh, so we'll call for the vote. All in favor, I'm sorry. There we go, that's passed unanimously. All right. So the recommendation of this report as follows: that Public Works Department Report 2024-96 be received, and that Council approves the transfer of $91,953 from the Capital Contingency Reserve and $80,847 from the Overshort Reserve to the city signage budget. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're good to go. Say what? So that was unanimous, so we'll just move along. That motion is carried. We're going to head up to item 8.8, draining maintenance billing 2024-72. Mover was Councillor Baudner and seconder was Councillor Aquilina, lifted by Councillor Baudner, and you'd like to speak on that item?
I would, Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you. I see our drainage superintendent has been waiting patiently. So I'll just throw this out there for whoever can answer. And by the way, I fully support this. This is to bill drains annually that are, as we just sat through a meeting, billed every 17 years for that particular one, which was very abnormal, I will say. But I do absolutely support this. And my question is, through Alana or the Mr. Bowles, I've been beating the drum to make sure that when people buy a house, they can find out, or the city, I'll say the city, so someone on the first floor, I guess, actually will say, if they ask, is there any outstanding taxes? Oh, by the way, do you want to know about drain charges that are outstanding? And we haven't been able to do that, and people buy the house and find out they owe quite a bit of money from past works. So my question is, will that solve the problem of people being able to be alerted because they don't even know they're on a drain? So I'll leave it at that, and someone can answer, that'd be great.
Go ahead, thanks.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I had a conversation with Andrea earlier today,
regarding this question. And before I get into that, I want to point out one clarification. So it wouldn't be construction costs, which are under new reports, which was the Wignall Drain report that we just had gone through. It would be only maintenance. So our yearly annual maintenance that we're doing, that will be billed every year. So now, after I had the conversation with Andrea, and she had said that when there's a sale, lawyers will ask for a tax certificate, and that at that time they will be notified that there's an add-on for municipal drain charges. The problem with that is that not all lawyers will request a tax certificate, and sometimes we just notice that there's a change of hands afterwards. So no, it's not going to catch all of them. It would be nice, but there is another little thing that we're doing as well, a communication piece. So anyone who is new to purchasing, I believe it's any new purchase, so when a new resident is purchased a house, they will be notified with a package of, hey, welcome to Port Colborne, we have some info for you. So we are trying to catch it both ways. We will do our best.
Anything to say, Mr. Bowles?
I will say something first.
You want to go again? Go ahead, Ron.
Because you might have to answer something else too. So I get it that we wouldn't know till somebody actually purchases. So I guess, how do we catch somebody that's interested and might come in and say, is there any outstanding charges on this? Because they can ask that, can't they? Is there outstanding taxes and if anybody ever asks that, staff should have a drainage thing in their hand. Oh, by the way, check this out. You may or may not be on a drain, but at least then they can ask the question. So, and the other thing is, can we, and probably maybe not do any good, but can we send some information packages out to realtors? Are they required to say, oh, by the way, you're on a drain? I'll leave it at that for now because I might have some other questions.
Mr. Bowles?
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor and council, I will have to look into if a realtor has to legally say if you're on a drain or not. If council will indulge me, I have a couple names just to read out within the city that have been working hard on this project, and one that might answer some of your discussion is Michael. He's our GIS tech, and he's been able to work with Alana, who our drain superintendent, and have been able to really enhance our mapping. So now, when we look at Andrea, who's our customer service and revenue manager, when somebody comes in to that customer service group, they can see in real time what the balances are, and they can have a conversation. So if anybody's interested in buying a property, they can confirm if you're on a drain and the potential costs with respect to that. And that's actually how they're doing the tax certificate model. When somebody asks for a tax certificate, they'll be able to send that information out. And so it's, as Elena had mentioned, it's not a perfect system, because if you don't ask through the lawyers, if you don't come in and ask yourself, if you don't look at our website that says, hey, properties on drains have this, there is a potential that that person may not know. And that's why, and it was because of Councillor Aquilina who brought this up before, and yourself, there is a letter that goes out, because when a tax sale or when a property sells, we get notification, and we will send that as soon as we get it. But the problem with that, I have to remind council, is the property's already been sold. And that's what you're talking about, is how do you catch that? Lots of proactive that's been built into this system. And I think our communication staff, Jasmine and Doug, Jasmine's our manager of communication, and Doug, our communication specialist, they've been able to help us put together this package, update the website. So a real team effort. But for council to be aware, there is that small group that might do no research and it still might not know, but we will be notifying them as soon as we know they buy the place.
One more, go ahead, Ron.
So while you're looking at things, can you see if mortgage insurance would capture or pay for that unknown charge? Because I understand that if there is unknown charges, you got 10 years to go back on the seller and collect if it's legit, right? So no idea whether drainage falls under that, but and I don't know how helpful that'll be, but I'm asking the question. So while you're searching around, if you could find that out, that'd be great.
Okay, Councilor Bruno?
Well, thank you, Worship. Through you, either to Elena, or I think I know part of this answer, but so when someone, not being familiar with drains that much in Ward 3, when an assessment's made, it's my understanding people have an opportunity to pay it outright, or they could put it in installments and pay interest on it. Is that correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. There are two avenues. So when we do a new report, I'm going to use the WIGNOD report again. So that's what we consider a new report. The report is fresh. We are doing the maintenance or the construction of that report for the very first time. Because it's an inflated cost, typically with engineering fees in that, we allow people to pay over 5 years. That's what we've done in the past. I don't believe we're changing our stance on that, but we will provide 5 years that it can be paid in equal installments on their taxes. For maintenance, we expect that one up front. Typically, the cost is not near as large. It's a standard maintenance that we're doing. The fees are a third or less, typically. And we do accept that one or receive that one up front when the bill is sent. We typically give 45 days or so, which is standard with all billing systems. I believe arrangements can be made with finance if for some reason a particular bill can't be made, but perhaps Mr. Bowles can answer that question.
Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, through the Deputy Mayor to the Councillor and Council, just to add, so the report does speak and give, and I'm really thankful to the finance team that have been able to, working with Elena, Adam and Jade, everybody working together to be able to put together the summary of all of our drains, all the maintenance costs, and all of the construction costs. And you can see on the maintenance costs, it's a fraction of what the construction is. And this report, when approved, will give staff the direction that we will bill maintenance every year when we bill the final tax bill in June. So that way the maintenance bills will never become significant. And when somebody purchases a house, there won't be a long outstanding maintenance bill.
So just on that, I guess where I'm going, I thought about this today when I heard about some of these numbers that people will have to pay on a new construction because of their situation. And it's pretty heady always to get that cost. And I didn't know, like if you're in the urban area and they put a sewer line in or a water line, in theory, through our tax bill, we're paying the construction cost and the debenture cost. So we're really paying interest and principal to build that water line. I just thought, if it's not against the act, wouldn't it be, instead of people being hit with a large construction cost, like if they were just on people's taxes in the rural area? Now, I know the argument is, well, if I pay it up front, I'm not paying interest along the way. But I was just thinking, if it was that way, then, you buy the house that's 2 years in to a new drain being put in, and nothing slips between the cracks, because when the property's searched, it has a balance owing of $12,000 for drains. And so you can never go wrong if upfront wasn't allowed and it was just on your tax bill till it was paid. I guess that's the only way I think you get a surety that the buyer is either going to know, or I guess in that case, if the seller has an outstanding bill, it comes off the sale. So maybe that doesn't work for the seller. But I just didn't know if there was another way. It just seems to me that people can really get whacked with a big number at the beginning, and I don't know, let me throw this out, is there a reason it has to be 5-year payback?
Mr. Bowles?
To the deputy mayor, to the councillor, we can take a look at other options for payment terms and come back to council with that process. All of our payment terms have always come to council, so if we want to give us some direction, we can come back with some alternative payment terms to consider.
I think I'll defer to the Ward 4 councillors on this, who always get hit with this question, but I really don't know how that would fly with those on the drain.
Councillor Aquilina, do you want to speak on that?
I'm not going to speak to your question because I'm still fairly new, and my comment is really just because I've lived in my house for 18 years but have never received a drainage bill. So coming to council, I was like full force immersed into the world of drainage, ditches, and watersheds, and quarter revisions and everything else. So my first question was what Mr. Bowles is addressing now is how do residents who have purchased a new property come to realize that they they're part of a drainage ditch and a watershed. So I really appreciate that you've addressed that. I would like to ask, with this letter that gets submitted, or if it's handed to somebody, if they come to customer service, do we have anything like a Q&A that can be attached to it, or have you already come up? Oh, see, there you go. You're all just because I didn't want to put the burden on the drainage superintendent to be answering all of these calls, so that's perfect. But I don't really particularly want to address your question because I don't know enough about it. So I'll refer to my Councillor Bodner.
Councillor Bodner.
Alana said the construction costs wouldn't be captured in this, and I know it's difficult because it can vary and there's got to be a sign, but in that letter, note, Q&A, whatever you're going to supply with them, can you say, maybe you should check with the drainage supervisor to see if there is any construction costs coming up? Because if you're just bought a house on the Wignall Drain yesterday, right? You're going to get a big surprise if you happen to buy lots of property. So, just so we kind of try to cover everything. And the other thing, so we're putting all of these costs on the tax bill. We're not calling them taxes, are we? Are they going to be like spelled out? Because drainage costs aren't taxes. So we need to be clear on that, because often in Ward 4, well, I pay enough taxes and you're already charging me for drains. Well, we're actually not. You're going to get that at some point. So just so we're absolutely clear on the tax bill that it is a charge for drainage and not a tax.
You want to speak on that, Mr. Bowles or Alana? Okay, thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So one of the pieces of communication that we have, along with the one that Mr. Bowles just had, is a notification going out to the entire municipal drain area of Port Colborne, notifying them that they will be billed yearly for any maintenance upcoming. And also with that will be a little snip showing on their tax bill what it's going to look like. So it will be under the special charges section, and it will have not the bylaw number, it will have the drain name and the amount. There's something else with it, but I don't recall what that is. But it will be clear on their tax bill.
Can I just request when you send that out, you put Councillor Aguilina's phone number in bold and mine a little less bold, and just
No bias.
I think I'm good, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Anyone else? Okay, so no further questions. The recommendation of this report are as follows. Public Works Department Report 2024-72 be received, and that council direct staff to bill the outstanding drainage, maintenance work, and future maintenance annually by adding the calculated charges to the final tax bill of impacted property owners. That the bylaw attached as Appendix A being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedules and to levy the actual costs incurred for the maintenance of the following drains: John Pitts, Indian Creek, Point Avenue, Biederman, Wignall, Pierce, West Branch, West, Fred Pitts, Marsh, Zavitz, Beaver Dam, Hahn, Ramey, Howie, Henry, Oil Mill Creek, William Michael, and Pierce municipal drains be approved, and that the bylaw attached as Appendix B being a bylaw to amend bylaw 7155/97/23 be approved. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, we're good then. That's carried. Okay. Notice of motions. There's no notice of motions this evening. Okay. Minutes of boards and committees. So there are no minutes of boards and committees this evening. So we'll head off to bylaws. Councillor Bagu is the mover, seconder Councillor Elliott. If any councillor has any questions about these bylaws, please raise your hand now. Thank you. That the remainder of the bylaws that have not been pulled for separate discussion be enacted and passed as presented. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. If there are any opposed, please raise your hand. Obviously not. The motion's carried. Procedural motions and information items. There are no procedural motions or information this evening. So the best part of the meeting now comes up where I move for adjournment. I'd say this meeting is done, folks. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you again.